Welcome to Yeukai Business Show, UK's premier business show where we feature business thought leaders, high achievers, and industry experts. Today's episode is brought to you by World Outsourcing Solutions Limited, a company that specializes in helping executive business owners with virtual assistant services and business growth systems. Here's your host.
Hello everyone and welcome to the show. I'm Trevor Stockwell and today my guest is Paul Battisson. Now, Paul helps businesses of all sizes engage with their customers, employees and partners in a more connected way. So let me ask you this before we kick off the discussion. Is there any room for improvement in your business to connect with others? Now, hopefully you're all nodding because we're all on a journey of learning and discovery, and Paul's here to help us on that journey. So Paul's the COO of Cloud Galacticos, which is a leading Salesforce implementation partner. And he's here to help us improve how we connect with our customers and potential customers. So welcome, Paul Battisson. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me here. I'm really pleased to be on the podcast and looking forward to a great chat this afternoon.
Sounds good. Absolutely. Before we dive into some of the nitty gritty and the sort of the detail with regards to connecting well, just share a little bit about your story and your journey. It's always good. We always ask guests to start off with that because it's nice to know a little bit of your journey that's brought you to where you are now, because you started off more from a development side of things, didn't you?
Yeah, so I was a very techie, sort of nerdy teenager. I got into writing computer programs as a teenager because I wanted to build games. I was playing as a game called Championship Manager, now Football Manager, which is, for football fans, it's basically a spreadsheet as a game to play football. Got really into that, wanted to build my own, never succeeded, but learned how to program from it. And then, over the years, went away to university and did a degree in maths, and then fell back into development. And was really kind of a technical person doing the delivery side. But I don't like the stereotype of developers and coders, kind of IT people sat away in a dark room somewhere. I think the best way of delivering things in any area is to get face to face with people, and so started getting more face to face with customers and with clients that I was working for, and eventually realized that hey, you know what, it's quite nice being able to do that more. Ended up doing more sales, more marketing, more speaking at events and things, and felt I quite enjoyed doing that as well. So here we are, kind of a number of years later, managing some European teams and things, and transition to being a COO and now do really all the sales and marketing stuff. But what's quite nice is having a technical background. I can kind of have that nice bridging conversation, I find. So I can talk to a CEO or a CMO or whoever it might be about their goals and visions as someone who also has business-led goals and visions, talk about the OKRs they're trying to hit and things like that, and then can go down through the layers and kind of make things either more technical as needed or less technical as needed, and sit face to face with the IT team and the development team and say, actually, this is how you do this is how it translates, and kind of bridge that connect. And when I am selling, it means that people know that I could actually deliver it and give them a valid answer, which is always good.
Yeah, absolutely. And that counts for a lot, doesn't it? Too often, I think you get an expert seller, which isn't necessarily an expert in the product. So there's a slight disconnect in, well, I'm listening to what you're saying and I will go and chat to somebody and then we'll come back. Whereas you're kind of, because you've got the spread of experience and knowledge, and where you are now as COO, like you say, you're in the shoes of a lot of the people that you're interacting and helping. So it makes perfect sense that it sounds to me like it's a really good fit for you that you've got to where you are now. So yeah, well done.
Yeah. It works nicely. We've all had salespeople that have sold us the dream and a moon on a stick. I always say to people that not only can I sell you the moon on the stick, I can build the stick and take you to the moon as well if we need to get there.
Absolutely. No, that sounds good. And you actually wrote a couple of books as well, didn't you? Did a course?
Yes. So I've got a couple of books on Amazon actually on for those that are interested in niche programming languages. You can find my books on there about the programming language that Salesforce has under its platform. And I've got a course on writing, what are called unit tests for the code in there. So all very detailed and techie stuff, but it's I find it a nice way for me to stay connected with what I'm doing. I do enjoy teaching and sharing with people on how they can improve and learn on it. And it was always a little life goal to have one book done. So when the pandemic hit, I wrote two.
Hey, yeah, well done. No, that's really good. What would you say some of the challenges have been in the journey that you sort of transitioned from the development side and then into consulting? You said you started having more discussions and enjoyed it, but was there any challenges you had to overcome in that process to get to where you are now?
I think by nature, people that do, doing programming and doing software development is a very creative process. Although it looks on a black screen like it's the most scientifically boring, dull thing going, it's like writing a book or anything else. You start off with a blank sheet and you have to make that blank sheet work and do what it's meant to do. And so, excuse me, the thing I found is that it's people who deliver work like that want to please people. No one wants to write a bad system. No one wants a bug. People just want to help. And so it's very hard to say no. And that, I think, has been the hardest thing is, when you go into a sales call and a sales negotiation, is turning around and when someone says to you, I want this, you turning around and saying, well, I want this for this amount, you turning around and saying no. And yeah, I think that's the hardest thing I found is just having the realization that, you don't always have to say yes. It's often in people's best interests to say no, and you just got to give a valid reason why. But for a lot of technical people, that's an uncomfortable. Well, I mean, for a lot of people in general, let alone technical people, it's an uncomfortable thing to say no. So you've got to learn to do that. That's been probably the biggest learning thing.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's human nature in some ways. We want to be liked, don't we? That underpins a lot of the reasons why we sort of try and say yes to things, and then afterwards it goes pear-shaped because we can't necessarily deliver it, even though we knew right at the start that it was going to be difficult, if not impossible, to deliver stuff.
Yeah.
So,
we've all been on IT projects that have over-promised and under-delivered, and so and that's literally where that comes from. It's just because people want to do the best that they can and want to make people happy.
Yeah. You've also got the element where if you're trying to hit sales targets, some people are less than ethical to reach the targets, and afterwards, actually, it comes back to haunt them. But I know you approach it more that you're able to give the sort of advice you need if somebody needs sort of Salesforce tailored and tweaked to how whatever their requirements are, because you understand the development side of it as well. Exactly, yes, that's possible, no it isn't, or it's going to be more complicated or less complicated because this and this, and you understand the background, don't you? So yeah, it's a really good position to be in.
It's there's that thing from Jurassic Park is everyone was so busy asking whether it could be done, they didn't stop to ask whether or not it should be done. And I think that's I think that the missing gap that having that background can do is, as a salesperson you can say yes, we can do anything, but as the technical person you can say, but we really shouldn't be doing that, so let's not, and let's figure out the best solution.
Yeah. No, that's really good. So let's dig into a little bit from the CRM perspective. So whether people are using Salesforce or not, a lot of the principles, a lot of your experience is relevant to them. So what would be, maybe, I suppose, for people listening and thinking, I don't connect as well as I should, or as well as I think I could with prospects, with customers as well. So bit of a big question, but what would be some of the things we have to think about to try and increase engagement?
I think the big thing I would say is to always think of yourself as a customer and what you'd like, and not just as a customer, as an employee, we've all got partner organizations we work with. We're all connected on these things. So think about how you would want to be going through an experience if you were the customer, and that doesn't just start off with it starts off with that initial sales piece, and how you connect with a prospect, how you understand what they're trying to do, how you understand their business and their need properly, and how you make them even aware of you. But it then travels through that piece to, okay, once you are a customer, how do I help you? How do I service you? How do I keep you? Very, very few sales today are one and done. There's very, very few things in the world now that are sold that you don't want a repeat customer. Most software applications are subscriptions. we pay for TV now via subscription. We pay for cars via a hire plan, and or lease the car. And a car dealership wants us to come back and buy another car.
Yeah.
Everything we really purchase and look at today, bar really disposable items like food and drink, we're aiming for that relationship. But even food and drink companies want that repeat business, want that relationship with you. They want you to be a Starbucks person or a Costa person or whatever.
Yeah.
Hence you have a loyalty card. And that's really what you got to think about, is not just how do you get that person to buy your product, but how do you get that person to love your product, or service, whatever it may be, long term. So it's thinking about having big one, customer portal, or your customers, members, whatever they might be, they should have a place where they can log in, get some help, maybe get some offers, and get some extra information or benefits. If you think about like your phone contract or your internet contract, you want to be able to sign into a place online where you can see all your bills, see your usage. You can apply some filters if you need to. You can upgrade it. You can downgrade it. You can get some offers. That's it. And you want that to be simple. And if your internet breaks, you want to be able to go on there and get it solved fast. And that's it. I think the key thing is just think about yourself and what journey you would like, because too often when we're looking at our own customers, we forget what it's like to be a customer. We're too busy focused on another metric rather than the experience.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Yeah, it makes perfect sense, actually. Yeah, and it's something that we can easily forget as well, isn't it? I think, and like most products and services, like there's several competitors out there, so it pays for any business owner to build that relationship where, people think of you again when they need to renew something, or they want to purchase or upgrade something. The car's been brilliant, but I'd like another one. This was really good. I was treated well, so I'm going to go back to the same dealership. Yeah.
I once worked with one client. I worked with one client who were a magazine organization, did magazine subscriptions, and their primary method of marketing and communicating with everyone was mail. It was direct mail still. And we spent hours talking to them, trying to say but what about the internet? They had this weird problem of a demographic issue of because they were male, most of their customers were a slightly older demographic. They wanted to reach out to a younger demographic, but were unwilling to realize that if I said to them all, they're all in their 30s, 40s, 50s, and younger, and said to them, well, how would you like to connect with yourself as an organization? Oh, I'd want to go online. I'd want to be able to text. I want an app with it. Okay, great. Why aren't we building that? Oh, well, because we need to worry about mail, because that's how we've done it. And it's stopping that. How have we always done it? How would I like this to be if I was going to? If you won't buy your own product, you shouldn't be selling your own product. You shouldn't be helping on it.
Yeah. No, that's really good. So how could a CRM, for people maybe that are less technically minded, but still want to sell their product or services to as many people as they can, how can the CRM aspect to it really help?
So the world we are in now is that every organization, whether they realize it or not, is actually partly a software company, because the biggest asset most companies have is your data. There's a lot of organizations I work with which sell a physical product, but what they're really wanting is to have access to your data, because that's what they can either resell or infer knowledge from to resell and work with. And a CRM system helps you manage that data. So if I talk about, if I'm interacting with a company and I give them a phone call because I've got a problem, if I call, let's just say, ABC internet company, and I give them a call to say my internet's down, I want them to be able to see that I've got a phone number with them, that I've called them recently about it, that a repair guy came around recently. It's like when you go in and buy a car, you check the service history, don't you? You don't buy a used car without looking through it and going, oh, actually, it was in an accident 3 years ago and it's actually a completely different car. It's what you do is you need to think about how, again, go back to how you'd want to be treated as a customer. A CRM system acts as that central point of all of your customers' data and allows you to do customer relationship management. It's how you manage that relationship and how you get that 360-degree view, which I know is a bit buzz termy, but it really is that thing of understanding where that customer's come from, how they got into your system, how they became a customer, which can tell you about their needs, how they've been using your product or service, and what problem they're having so that you can fix it. If you are an internet company and you can see that I had the repair guy come around 3 days ago, when you answer that phone number, you can have that pop up, and you're going to know that I'm going to be annoyed. If I've not had any problems for 6 months, I like to be like, there's a problem. Can you help me? If I've had an installation guy around on Monday and it's Thursday, I'm going to be unhappy. I'm likely to churn or not, move away and all of these sorts of things. That's the information you can have at your fingertips. And so it's connecting all of that together to allow you to manage that. And it's really the power of a CRM. Whatever CRM it is that providing you that single source of truth and single sort of source of the customer so you can help them better by understanding their full picture.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I guess for businesses with teams as well, where maybe 2 or 3 people, 20, 30, whatever, salespeople are sort of, although you build the unique and individual relationship one-on-one, you can have several different team members looking after the company or certain clients, prospects, whatever. So it's that centralized view for each of them, isn't it? So they spoke to Joe Bloggs yesterday. Now I can see what they spoke about and blah, blah, blah. Particularly if people aren't sat next to each other or in the same area now. I suppose that's another benefit, isn't it? So
it's the risk management as well. I mean, we all know that salespeople used to have a little black book, and a lot of them used to physically have a little black book.
Yeah.
If they leave, that little black book goes with them, and if they go to a competitor, you better believe they're going to be calling that person up. So what you want to do is have all that tracked in the CRM, so that if that person leaves or is on sick leave or whatever it might be, you've still got all that information so you can service that customer.
Yeah.
But it's having one big little black book.
Yeah, that's a key thing as well. And I guess linked to that is the security side of it, because it's cloud-based. The black book isn't suddenly going to get left on a train if we, use the...
Yeah.
People still use black books and things like that. But yes, the principle is the same, isn't it? You can safeguard your customers' data because it's consolidated and then there's encryption and that sort of stuff. So yeah, that makes sense as well. What would be some of the things for people that maybe, whether they're familiar with Salesforce or not, you guys actually can kind of tailor make that platform to the needs of the business, can't you? So what would be some of the things, like, is it just bolt-on modules that people can add on, or would you actually do much programming, or is it a case-by-case scenario, I suppose?
It's sort of a broad spectrum. So Salesforce, as you the right word you used there was platform. It's not just a product, it's a suite of products on a platform. And what that really allows you to do is, to use sort of like a rough analogy, it's in the US, if you've ever gone to a Chinese restaurant in the US, like there's sort of a menu where you can check the numbers off. I don't know if you've ever done that. And so, you get a full menu and you just kind of check the numbers off and hand it in, and then your food is brought from you for that. And that's kind of like what these sort of cloud platforms are, is you can choose which items you want off the menu, and they can work together seamlessly out of the box. But then someone like myself can come in and either help tailor it and customize it using a little bit of configuration. So make it a bit more branded your way, change some of the stages. Do you go from qualifying to qualified to closed won, or do you have an intermediary stage, which is alignment with stakeholders or whatever it might be? So we can tailor those things, and then there's lots of different layers. So Salesforce have invested, Salesforce as a platform themselves have invested a lot of money in building out what are called low-code, no-code tools. So if you've ever seen sort of a flow or process diagram, it's a little drag and drop tool that can allow you to build very complex processes that can validate things, create other records, send emails, do integrations with third-party platforms, all sorts. And then you can also build custom code on there as well to do things where it is a little more complex. And I've done things such as I built machine learning platforms on there. You can do things that are that complicated and crazy, all the way down to I've made a custom widget before that has displayed the latest top news article from a specific API, a very niche industry newsletter that was just displaying the latest feed of information there. So it really is kind of both ends of the spectrum as you go.
Okay, and I guess depending what modules you pick, will be the dependent on sort of the cost area that you need as well, and just okay, that makes sense. Because there is the danger that people get overwhelmed and pick a lot more than what they actually need, or they pick one thing because they think that's all they need, and then it only goes so far, and they can't do the whole process as they'd like to. So they're back to spreadsheets and this, that, and the other, and all the rest of it.
I think
data's in place.
There are kind of two ways I see organizations. There are those really big ones that, if you're 150 people plus, which I know is not a huge organization compared to many out there, but when you're changing a system, you're really doing a big transformation project with something like a CRM or an ERP or any of the wonderful acronyms we have in there. When you're doing something like that, it's a big transformation. You're going to need to do a bit of a bigger bang. And you're going to need more modules. You know that you're going to need more things because you're doing more things. For a lot of smaller organizations we work with, I mean, I work with everyone from, there's one organization I worked with where there was two brothers that had founded the company, and that was it. And their dad occasionally joined meetings because he'd given them some money and wanted to check it was being used properly, all the way through to, two of the clients we're working with at the moment. One recently got listed on the London Stock Exchange. Another one is one of the S&P 500, but they're different beasts and different pieces. So for the smaller end, I have a strong philosophy of treating my customers' money like my own. For the smaller companies, just buy what you need. Let's scale it, get some return on investment, and then you'll know what you need to do because you don't know what you don't know. A 2 or 3 or 20 person organization does not know enough about a lot of these things, typically because they might not have done it before. If I go to an enterprise organization, I work with a lot of large pharmaceuticals and I've worked with a lot of banks. There's about 3,000 people in there, all of whom are dedicated to just writing business requirements and the machine that is the internal IT systems there. So do you know what? In that case, you can roll out something wall to wall much bigger because you're prepared for it. But don't be afraid to say, nope, we're just going to take this step by step and get the right return on investment first of all, because again, it's your money. You've got to make the best use of it.
Yeah, I really like that philosophy, like being the customer's shoes, but also realize you're spending their money like you'd spend your own in a sense, and approach it from that way. I think that's a good takeaway and perspective to keep. So that's really good. So what would it look like if for people that, I suppose, so what you said, you could do like a module and then add it 6 months down the line. Yeah, we're happy with this. This all makes sense. We'll integrate the next part that gives us, I don't know, reporting or more detail, drill down or something like that. So that makes sense. But what would be for people that are sort of thinking, wherever size company they're at, if they're using a CRM or they're thinking, we really need to get to the point where we connect everything and makes the whole process better, what would be some of the first steps if they come to you? How would you help them decide what they need and what they don't need? Again, a bit of a big question, but
no, it's an important one because that's really the genesis of it all. It doesn't matter, even if it's an existing Salesforce environment, it's the same thing we go through where we start off and say, show us what you're doing, whatever it's in, show us what you're doing, tell us what's wrong with it and that you hate, tell us what's right with it and what you like, and now tell me where you want to go in 6 months, in 12 months, in 18 months. And that's not just on what you want to do with Salesforce. It's not just in 24 months, I want to have double the number of salespeople using the system. It's, okay, in 24 months, you want to have double the number of salespeople. What does that mean for the business as a whole? Does that mean you're going to have double the number of support cases coming in? Does that mean you're going to be generating double the number of leads or quadruple the number of leads? Is your close rate going to go up or down? How are those leads coming in? What about your project management perspective? If you've got a physical product you're installing, have you got enough installers for it? How are you going to do that? Because all of these systems, and to go back to that kind of data being such a core part of the business piece here, you can't go in and just look at it in isolation. I like to understand what the business is doing, and that's really the first key step is what do you want to do with your business? And I tell people time and time again, some businesses, the company that got listed on the stock market, they want to grow and grow and grow because they got listed on the stock market. There's a reason they got listed. It's to get investment and to grow. I worked with another organization that was chatting to the founder there. And I said to him, well, what's your aim with it? And he's like, I'm 45. I want to get to 60 and I want the business to still be going, but I don't want it to be much more work. And he doesn't, he was at a comfortable position of about 50 people. He said, we don't want to be 500. Yeah. I might go up to 60. I might drop down to 40, but he said, I'm happy with this. Like, he'd hit his profit margins, he'd hit everything else. And, just because you have a bigger revenue doesn't mean you're making bigger profits. And so it's understanding that. So my first thing is always, let's understand how you're doing things at the moment and what your pain points are and everything else. But really, let's understand what your strategy as a company is and whether this fits and makes sense for you. Because it could be we just say, from a sort of generic consultancy perspective, actually fix these 5 things and do that for 12 months and then come back. Sometimes the answer is not any changes in their IT system. Sometimes it's just simply going in and knowing which dial to turn, and it's 20 minutes worth of work. I had one organization I worked with that they tried to engage us because they were just saying, we've had this one problem, and they couldn't log. They were just having issues logging emails. They're like, you have to copy the text across and then paste it in there, and I was like, why don't you use the plugin? And they're like, what plugin? And they genuinely had it for 4 years, not realize that, and they were looking at hiring someone to copy and paste the data across because of how problematic. It took me 20 minutes to install it on 10 laptops, and I said, everyone else can go and do it in the company now. And they just got running with it, and it was like that was their biggest headache problem solved.
Wow.
That's it. Yeah. So it is just understand the problems, understand what's good, what's bad, what you like, what you dislike, and where you want to go as a company. And that'll help shape anything you do, whether it's CRM, ERP. I do a lot of work helping organizations do their kind of broader IT landscape and technology landscape, and it affects all of that. And that's got to be the key driver on it. There's no point. Don't go buying a system because you've heard it's popular or you heard it's sexy, or you listen to Paul and Trevor on the podcast and thought, I like the cut of his gym, I'm going to buy this. Have a conversation and say, actually, that is useful. That can help me. Now let's do it.
Yeah, that's really good. It's like, everyone else is using it. We got to get that. It's like, yeah, but if you're not using it like everyone else is using it, you're not going to get the results.
As some companies I go into where they've had Salesforce and customized it to the ends of the earth because they thought they were special. It's sales at the end of the day. It's not that different wherever you're doing it. You're selling a product, it's got a number on it, and there's a process. Like, keep it simple, make it fast and rapid, and you end up having to tell them, look, we're going to end up having to do some rework here, but you rework it with them to make it simpler. And although they lose what they think is lose a bunch of functionality, you get there at the end and say, well, isn't this nicer and quicker and happier? And everyone goes, yeah. We didn't need it to. There was one company I worked with where they liked it to have confetti. There was a big thing about having confetti when you closed the deal. And I was like, that is an option. And this is now actually a standard feature in Salesforce. Before that they had this little thing where they wanted a little bell to ring and everything. And I said, well, if we remove that, it will cut down all these other problems that are going on. And they said, all right. They were really hesitant. And then about 6 months, they were like, don't know why we had that bell in the first place.
No, it's good. It helps you get to the point of, what's the bare basics that we need, and then build on that once we're happy with that, isn't it? Rather than, let's get everything and then try and work it out over the next 12 to 2 years. It's just like, no, that's the way to frustrate your team, isn't it? Really?
Well, it's again, you don't know what you don't know. If you're an existing Salesforce user, you know what you love about it and you know what you hate about it. So that's easy for me to come in and help you fix those problems. Yeah. If you're brand new to a platform, brand new to any system, you don't know what you'd like and you don't know what you dislike about it. So, I've got a company I'm working with where we're going to be implementing kind of Salesforce wall to wall. But the base, it's going to be, let's keep it simple now and get you using it, because once you're using it, then you can tell me what needs to change, because out of the box, it works brilliantly. Let's tweak it so it matches your process a little bit. But then when you decide you want to add your ringing bell, or, there's this, John in accounting wants it done in this specific way, we can decide if that's really useful to do or whatever it might be, rather than spending 6 weeks doing that up front.
Yeah. It's really, I like also the way you can tailor make kind of the system. It gets people out of the trap of, well, this is what it does, so we have to change our processes to do that. It's like, no, hold on. It's a tool. It should help you do what you do outside of the office rather than, suddenly have to change stuff. So that makes a lot of sense. Just, I'm curious, Cloud Galacticos. So where did you get the name from?
So the founder, Phil, chose the name a few years ago. It was originally called Phil Walton Consulting. He likes to refer to it as the original PwC. But he'd been working with Salesforce for a few years, and had effectively started off and ended up with a few people helping him, and realized it was a bit vain to have his name across the door when there was about 7 other people there. And so Phil and I are both big Man United fans. It's one of our shared passions. And there's I'm sure people have heard of Real Madrid as a football team.
Yep.
They have a thing called the Galacticos model, where what they'll do is every sort of 10 years, they'll go out and buy all the biggest names. So they'll go and buy, like, David Beckham was one of the original ones in the 90s. Beckham and Ronaldo and Zidane and Michael Owen and household names like that. They did it again in the sort of noughties with Cristiano Ronaldo and Modric and Benzema and players like that. And they'll probably do another round now with like Mbappe and others. And so Galacticos means superstar in Spanish. And his thought was, there are many different types of consultancies out there, and they each have their own place to fit. There are huge kind of big 4 consultancies that can give you 1,000 people tomorrow. There are other consultancies that start off and have a lot of graduates there that will help you out and are there to kind of do churn shops. We are not 500 people. We're about a 35 person organization. Our focus, though, is every one of those people has a lot of experience. I've been doing this for 13 years. I've written 2 books, spoken at multiple events. Phil's been doing it for 17 years. Our CTO's been doing it for 16 years. We've got people that run user groups on it and have written thousands of blog posts and spoken at conferences. And they're all highly skilled, highly focused on Salesforce kind of individuals. And so a lot of them have run their own businesses in the past as well. And so we can bring all that experience to bear. So rather than having 100 people help you, that might be a mixture of graduates and some people outsource and all these other things. Yeah. You just have 5 or 6 at max, and they're highly skilled people. It's a terrible analogy is it's the difference between getting in a team of the SAS or the Marines versus getting the infantry in. The infantry are fantastic in a lot of scenarios and are really, really important. However, if you want to go in and do something difficult and have an expert, you'll go and get the Marines, the Commandos, or the SAS. And so that's kind of the different model there. So it's meant to be cloud superstars. And the Spanish people, when we go over to Spain and do talks over there, they get it really quickly. But it's most people have thankfully heard of David Beckham and Real Madrid. There's the occasion where we have a chat with someone and they're like, no, I don't like football whatsoever. David Beckham.
So, well, you're not our target market. Goodbye.
Yeah. If you're living under a rock that much that you've never heard of David Beckham, then you're probably not using a computer at this point as well.
Yeah, absolutely. No, that's really good. We've sort of come to the end of the chat today, but it's been really good. I like your philosophy. I'll go back to that as well. You shared a lot of good stuff, so thank you for that. But the philosophy of keeping it that you put yourself in the customer's shoes regularly. And also, if I was spending my money in what I'm suggesting to you, would I find that value for money? I think they're 2 just quick takeaways from this episode, but there's lots of other bits and pieces that you've shared, and hopefully get everybody thinking, just where are we when we interact with people? Could we have a better system? What do we need to do? Are we overwhelmed with what we've got and we need to simplify it? Do we need to have a chat with somebody that can see the bigger picture outside of what we're trying to do? Oftentimes the external input is huge because it's a fresh perspective, isn't it? So yeah, no, that's really good. For anybody that does want to reach out, there'll be a link to the website. Is that the first step for them to, what would be their first step? Maybe that's the
first step is, as ever, put yourself in your customer's shoes and think, is this worth a conversation? And myself, Phil, any of the team are always happy to have a conversation. Love to chat with people, and if it doesn't go anywhere, it doesn't go anywhere. We can always have a great chat. the first step, have a look at the website. We've got some success stories from other companies we've worked with on there. You can see some pictures of us, learn a little bit more. We actually have a new version of the website coming imminently. He says as soon as he can finish writing some of the copy or reviewing it. My surname is pretty unique, so you'll see that in the show notes. I think I come on the top ranking page for everything on Google. I'm pretty well out there. So ping me on LinkedIn, ping me on Twitter, or use the contact us form and it comes through. And would love to have a conversation with people if they've just got any questions and just want to know could this be a fit for them. Okay,
no, that's really good. So whether people are using Salesforce already or they're not, and they're thinking I need something, it's certainly worth having a conversation, isn't it? To shed light on, to tap your experience. If they're serious about it and they're inquiring, then that's the key step to take. So that's really good. Thank you for what you shared. You make connecting with people. You've boiled it down in such a simple way. There's more to it to build on from that, but the core thing is that perspective, keeping other people as the main perspective. So that's really good. So thank you for what you shared. It's been really good. Wish you all the best in the future and how the company grows and things like that.
Well, thank you very much. It's been a lovely chat, and thank you very much for having me. And I hope people have found it useful and enjoyed it.
Definitely, they will. Thank you, Paul. So for everybody listening, as we said, what could you do? What one thing or two things could you do to help improve the way you connect with people, the way you approach your next conversation with a customer, with a lead? How could you change your processes to tweak them? Maybe not necessarily a complete overhaul, but just a tweak to make the process better. Is it actually serving you, or are you serving the process as well? Lots of different things you could think about. Hopefully there's one or two things that you're starting to think about now. And as always, we encourage you to take action. Make sure you do something that gets you to where you want to go. So with that, we will leave you. We will wrap this episode up. Thanks for joining us, and we will catch you next time.
Thank you for listening to Yeukai Business Show. We will be back to bring you more episodes with success stories and advice straight from the experts. Want more? Check out www.yeukai.businessshow.com. Get your free trial of our virtual assistant service today. Just visit www.worldoutsourcingsolutions.com. Quote WOS18 or send us an email at support@worldoutsourcingsolutions.com.